Good afternoon. The meeting will begin in 1 minute. The meeting will begin in 1 minute. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Carnegie Town Hall for our City Council informational meeting. Today is Monday. Yes, Monday, October 20th. Welcome. Appreciate your interest in city government. We're going to start our meeting with a report from our audit committee met last Thursday. Councilor Rolfing.
Thank you. We had a great meeting. We had a couple of audits that our audit committee or our auditors did on cell phone and mobile device long distance usage within the city. Did not find anything out of the ordinary, and in fact did a good job of keeping long distance minutes and everything else down. And we also did one on payroll, and nothing was found there. Things are in good order. Ladies, did you want more?
If I might, I just was wondering what the heck a long-distance minute is. That was my question.
Well, I'm sorry, on cell phones, when they call outside the city limits, those are all. We have so many minutes to use, and they're managing those minutes by moving them around to different people that we didn't have, that we may not have before. I still remember back when we had, like I say, we had $30 phone bills.
Were there stone tablets involved with
yes,
this back
there
when?
were.
Okay.
Party lines and ringy dingies.
Tin cans.
Yeah.
While I still have control, do you have more?
Most of the problem was found on the city council. Other than that, we're okay. Anyway, no, everything was fine there. I did want to report on the peer review of the audit department, the internal audit department. We had a gentleman from San Antonio, or El Paso, Texas. I keep wanting to say San Antonio. El Paso, Texas, and Seattle, Washington, who are auditors in their own right. Both of them have many, many years of experience in the auditing, and they came up with just a glowing reports for our audit department. And so this is really good for the city to know that we have somebody that's keeping an eye on things and are able to do it in a very professional manner. A couple of minor things that they came up with to do, but other than that, and those will be implemented right away. Other than that, we're in great shape. The auditors came out very successful.
Thank you, Councilor Rolfing. Any questions for the councilor? All righty. At that point now where we are at City Council open discussion. Councilors, anything that you'd like to discuss as a forum? Councilor Jameson.
Thank you. Some weeks ago I had asked for, maybe months now, I'd asked for some update on the status of the flashing red lights that we'd kind of changed to. And we had been promised an update, so I just want to kind of push that again, if we could get an update on those, the timing change, and we'd seen a couple accidents occur from the change in some of those intersections where it's flashing red. What the report is, hopefully would tell us is if we've made improvements or there's been less accidents or more accidents. Either way, I'd like to get a little update. And this kind of all stems back to, as well, an accident that occurred on Friday where two individuals were killed over there on 26th Street. by St. Michael's Church. That's my church. I go there every week, usually. When I go through that same intersection, it is a little bit of a gauntlet run. And I think the original plans were to have the Edna Avenue a right in, right out only, but through development processes, and I think things have allowed an intersection to occur in a location that it shouldn't. There's a stoplight further up at the Lowe's, right next to Lowe's, and that's where the intersection should occur. But both locations should have right-ins or right-outs, and as well as the speed limit's 45 miles an hour on that road. I've just been contacted by a few people, and even my own self-conscious going through there, that something needs to change there. There's been a lot of people killed in that stretch from the interstate to Marion Road in one way or another. Motorcycle accidents where they've come off and hit the tree or something. But either way, if we could maybe somehow approach that discussion with addressing the speed limit, the flashing red lights, and the construction design for that roadway to see if we're missing something. But we got to do something, I think, to improve the safety at that stretch. So I'm not sure where we could take it, but an update with Public Works might be a part of it, maybe the police department too.
I'm going to ask Jim if you would contact Heath to specifically talk about the red light thing, when they were changed and why. I know there was public input and people asked that they be changed, but if there has been any significant or any measurable impact, you know, from accidents, that type of thing at those intersections. And Councilor Jameson, I think, is 26th Street the boundary for our districts, or is it south of there? I think from Marion and 26th, that is.
The river kind of turns the boundary, and so it's real close between us.
Okay, yeah. And I've had several emails with constituents out in that area too, and I also go to St. Michael's, and yeah, I've talked to Heath Hofteaser on the phone and by email, and they started actually last week looking at that stretch of the road and possibly reducing the speed, making some other changes. So there are several things, and they expect maybe this week, but by the sounds of it, for sure by the end of next week, to be able to make some changes or recommendations as to what should be done out there. So I'm also looking at it and talking to people too. So your help and, you know, more voices the better, I guess. But yes, I've heard from people out there also. So there's been at least 6 fatalities. I don't know if any of them, a few were related to speed, but those were, I believe, from police car pursuits and exceeded 80 miles an hour. But some of the recent ones weren't due as much to speed, but it is still too high of a speed right in that area. I think if you talk to anybody who lives out there, they would agree with you. Other open discussion. All righty, we'll go into the meat of our presentations, and doesn't get any better than our monthly financial report. Welcome, Director Turbach.
Good afternoon and happy Monday. So I was just here not too long ago with the August report. This one came around a little more quickly for September, and we'll walk through the economic indicators and touch on the general fund budget, and then you folks will be kind of up to speed where we are through the first 3 quarters of the year. Unemployment, just the same story here. We continue to enjoy very good unemployment rates and have for some time now. The most recent data indicate a 2.9% unemployment rate in our local MSA. That's down from 3% a year ago and 3.8% 2 years ago. So for quite some time now, we've enjoyed very favorable unemployment rates. I did jot down the number of individuals working in August this year. 131,855 people were working in Sioux Falls or in the MSA. That's up about 1,600 from a year ago and up more than 5,400 from 2 years ago. So significant increase over the last couple of years. The state unemployment rate's currently at 3.3%, and nationally it's at 6.3%. So again, we continue to compare very favorably to the national rate. Building permits, again, kind of the same old story. Things are going incredibly well in terms of the construction activity in the community through August. For the, through September, the year-to-date information would indicate we've issued more than $454 million worth of permits for construction this year. That's running about 10% behind last year, but still about 33% ahead of 2012. So it still continues to be a very, very solid year. Looking at the sales tax data on our rolling 12-month growth rate, the most recent 12 months, we've seen 5.8% growth. For 2014, we budgeted 5% growth, so we're still on track to hit our budget numbers. A year ago, we were running at 6.9%, so it has come down almost a little more than a full percentage point from a year ago, or 2 years ago, 1 year ago. And we're still up slightly from the 5.5% 2 years ago. Entertainment tax dollars, we like to watch those as well. The 12-month growth rate currently is also at 5.8%, and there again, we budgeted 5% for 2014. So we're on track to hit our budget numbers this year. And you can see on the chart, it's come down from the highs at the end of 2012. We were growing at about 7%. And for the last year and a half or so, we've been running right around that 5% growth rate in our entertainment tax dollars. Looking now at the general fund, revenues and expenses through the first 3 quarters of the year. Our revenues are at $89.9 million through September. That's 66% of what we budgeted for the year. Last year through September, we were at 71% of budget. That was kind of a spike last year that relates to the ice storm and the FEMA dollars that came in September. I think we had about a $4 million payment that came in from FEMA in September, so that kind of jumped our percentage a year ago. But being at 66%, that's consistent with where we would have been without that FEMA payment and where we were in 2012. So revenues continue to track very much as expected. On the expense side in the general fund, we're at 70% of budget. A year ago, we were running at 71%, so we're very much in line with where we would expect to be in terms of our spending in the general fund. We're at $99 million through September. So that's really the comments I have on the general fund. There is one budget item related to the general fund that I do want to bring to your attention today. That may be a potential issue that we're looking at on the horizon. As you folks are aware, the Elmwood Golf Course has been under renovation for about the past year as part of the airport runway project. And as I'm certain you all know, 9 holes for the past year have been closed down, and that will continue again next season and the following season as well, so that over the course of a 3-year time period, all 27 holes will be renovated at Elmwood. And of course, shutting down a third of the business out there has had a negative impact, as expected, on the financial results of the Elmwood Golf Course, and we'll continue to see a negative impact for the next couple of years until we're back up to all 27 holes operating. Now, the impact appears to have been greater than anticipated. We continue to work closely and communicate closely with Dakota Golf Management to get a clearer picture of just what the impact has been. We're monitoring that situation very carefully and certainly are working to avoid the need to supplement the general fund budget in 2014. But at this point, we simply can't rule that possibility out at this point. In the near future, you should be seeing a contract amendment with Dakota Golf Management coming forth that kind of takes into account all the changes that are happening out there. And so you'll be hearing considerably more about the kind of the financial impacts that project is having currently and that we would expect it to have in the next couple of years till that construction process is finished. I'm not really prepared today to go into any details, but I did want to bring it to your attention. And I know at some point in the near future, I will be here, and as well as the Parks team, to talk more about that in more detail. So with that, be happy to try to answer any questions you folks have.
Any questions? Councilor Jameson.
Tracy, thanks for that information on the golf course. That's good to have up front. When you were talking, it made me think of the event center and the fact that Share had canceled or was postponed her deal till next year, just the fiscal year. Is there any issues with that for us in any way for the operation of the facility? Anything that we need to think about?
Well, certainly that will drive revenues out of 14 and into 15 in terms of the financial performance of the facility. I don't believe it's going to rise to the level, at least based on what we see today, that it's going to cause any financial or budgetary concerns from the city's perspective.
Thank you.
On the plus side, it'll start out next year in a very positive way.
Right. Yeah.
Tracy, thank you. How do you feel about the 5.8% sales tax increase and the 5.8% on an annual basis the last 12 months for the entertainment tax for 2015? Because we've looked at the 6% there, as I remember. How are we going to get there if we're not there now? I guess last year it was into the 6.5 or so, and
Right. Well, that's why we look at it every month to get make sure we have a good pulse on kind of how things are running. You can see last year, in the last quarter of the year, sales tax growth really picked up. Now, will that reoccur again this year? I guess only time will tell, but that's certainly something that we want to keep a very close eye on. We did start 2014 with a little bit of a head start because we grew faster last year and so in effect are starting at a higher base for 2014 than what we originally projected, over a year ago. So we've got a little bit of growth in the bank, so to speak, for 2014, and that same thing will carry through to 2015, provided we can end the year at a greater than a 5% growth rate. And now we're running not quite a full percentage point ahead of that. Yeah, so I mean, it's always a concern. It's not keeping me awake at night, I guess, if that's any indicator for you. But it's certainly something we'd like to see tick back up again above that 6% level. And that, time will tell. Absolutely.
Tracy, with that being said, to speak to the lodging taxes over the last 3 months.
The lodging tax?
Yeah, it's July. It was 95,000. That'd be page. What is that? 3. The last 3 months, it's just skyrocketed. The percentage of change during the current collection year is 16%.
Yeah, I guess just based on that indicator alone, I'd say the local lodging industry is having a very, very good year. Of course, that money passes through the city and goes to the Convention and Visitors Bureau.
And that was something we were worried about earlier in the year that we were watching, because the numbers were a little low, but
that's certainly not the case
today. The summer did kick it off. And then one other thing on a question that definitely will come when you bring the Elmwood Golf Course issue to us, is that we knew that we were going to be losing 9 holes for a couple years now, and why didn't we plan for that?
Well, we did. We do have money in the 14 budget to cover a portion of that. Of course, it was really just truly a best guess at that point of what's it going to be, what's the impact going to be. We expected that some of the golfers that we would lose on the East 9 would be the kinds of golfers, at least so I'm told, that would utilize Keene, and we are seeing a very good year at Keene Park, at the course there, but not enough to offset the losses at the lost revenue at Elmwood. So we've got money in the 14 budget. We put money in the 15 budget to help offset that lost revenue, but it just appears that it's, at least the indications we have today are that it just simply wasn't enough. we're doing other things within the management and of the course and how the course revenues are utilized to mitigate that as much as we can, so that we don't have to supplement the budget, hopefully at all, but if we do have to supplement it, it will be minimized.
Councilor Rolfing?
On that same subject, aren't we going to be reimbursed either some or all of that loss of income by the Federal Aviation or something? Because they're the ones that kind of demanded that we make these changes.
We are working with the airport authority to try to get participation from them as well. I don't know what their capability to get federal funding for that would be necessarily, but we have had a number of meetings with the airport authority, hopefully to gain their participation in sharing a little bit of that impact. Now, whether that will be successful or not, I guess there again, we'll see how that plays out.
Councilor Anderson?
Before we jump into the next subject, could I ask a question of Mark Cotter?
Sure.
It would be part of this.
He's ready for a pop quiz. What the heck?
Hopefully it's an easy question, Mark. As I was looking through this, I see the Railroad Relocation Fund. When are we going to get an update on that?
I can give you a brief one right now. We're continuing to work through the appraisal process. We're hopeful that we'll have the appraisal complete by the end of this month. Now that's contingent on the extent of the review that's being currently conducted. If you recall that the first stage was to hire an expert appraiser, and we've done that. And so the first appraisal came in on at the end of July, and then it goes to the review appraiser. They did a full review, and then those comments had to go back and be addressed by the lead appraiser. Those comments have been addressed, and now it's in what we hope is considered final review. So our project team goal is to complete the appraisal by the end of this month. Again, that's contingent on the review appraiser meeting that deadline, and so then we can actually start negotiations in November.
Thank you.
Yeah?
Any other budget questions? All righty, we'll move into our next presentation. Jim David will be talking about our citizen survey, which you all have a copy of in front of you. He said he would take the time to read it to us. I said that probably wasn't necessary. It is available, I'm sure, for everybody to review.
Good afternoon, Jim David, Legislative Operations Manager for the Council. Before you is the citizen survey. It's the latest draft. Questions 14 through 17 are the custom questions, and I can, as Chair Karski had said, I'll read these custom ones to you at least. But number 14 is, please rate the importance of the City of Sioux Falls investing as this existing taxpayer or tax dollars over the next 2 years and the following. If you recall, this did change a little bit. Councilor Kiley worked with Councilor Staggers to add in the word existing tax dollars. The one change I would make to number 14 is to remove job growth from one of the options. The only reason is for that change would be in question 17. We do ask a question whether or not the City of Sioux Falls should place a high priority investing taxpayer resources to promote job growth. And then question 15 and 16, the ad hoc committee, which included Councilor Jameson and Councilors Erickson and Kiley, did meet with Kevin Smith and Mike Cooper, and they did come up with some compromise language. The first one, 15, in addition to the city enforcing property maintenance codes, such as lawn mowing, weed control, sidewalks, snow removal, parked vehicles, U.S. citizens are encouraged to assist the city in identifying potential violations. To what degree are you satisfied with the reporting process? And then question number 16, thinking about future shopping areas and other types of development in the city, how important, if at all, should each of the following be when the city is considering new development? And then there are 5 different options there, or 5 specific questions: resident opinion citywide, resident opinion nearest to the development, current zoning, which was changed from established zoning, fits with the city's character, and provides a product or service not available in the city. And you rank that on very important, somewhat important, not very important, or not important at all. And then we just already discussed 17, and then the final question is an open-ended question that was included during the last survey, and that asks, what one thing can city government do to improve Sioux Falls? Please describe using the space below. Happy to answer any of your questions with the survey, but just requesting permission to move forward with these questions.
I guess my own personal question, when you talk about 14 with job growth and then you jump down to 17, they're not really the same question. Are you saying that we should change it or eliminate one of them? I personally would like to see them both kept.
Yeah, it's at your decision. Just looking at 17, asking about taxpayer resources being used for, but I understand there is kind of a different question. Whereas 14, the premise of it is that it is existing today, and what are your thoughts on that? Whereas in 17, it asks you to, what is your overall philosophy on using taxpayer resources for job growth?
We're placing a higher priority on using them.
Yeah. Yep.
Counselors, any other questions, concerns? I personally would like to leave it the way it is, Jim.
Sure.
And I guess I know what we're looking for here is, as long as we don't vote on it, but unless anybody has strong objections to proceeding with this, that we do so. Councilor Erpenbach.
I would agree with you that we keep both of those references to job growth in there, and I'm fine with them the way they are. I'd take my vote as consensus.
Anybody have any objection to proceeding with this then? We'll take that as consensus then for you to proceed with this citizen survey. And when will the survey begin? How will people see it? Will they be contacted? Is it a voluntary thing?
It's there's actually going to be about 3,000 of these surveys that are mailed out. About 32% have responded in the past. Just as was done in 2014, and we're going to be doing it in January, so it'll be January of 2015 that these go out to those 3,000 addresses. I did request that they remove city employees from that list, and they seemed agreeable to that, so we'll make sure that no city employee or city council member do receive those surveys.
All righty then. Thank you very much, Jim. Councilor Anderson.
Move for an executive session to consult with legal counsel about proposed or pending litigation or contractual matters pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2.
Three. I have a motion to move into executive session and a second. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. This meeting will be adjourned, and when we reconvene, it will be for the Land Use Committee meeting. Meeting adjourned.